Hey guys, Chris from Nerd Reactor, and we're here with Bryan Berg, the man who built this beautiful... Explain it to us, actually.
Well, it's a freestanding house of cards, so there's no tape or glue. It's actually not playing cards like I usually use. These are Konami Star Wars Force Collection mobile card game cards, and basically built the fortress from the new Star Wars movie, Rogue One. And there's about 100 pounds of them here.
100 pounds? Wow. So you actually hold some world records, correct?
Yeah, I hold the Guinness record for the world's tallest house of cards, which is about 26 feet high, and also the world's largest house of cards, which is about 4,000 decks of cards, which the footprint of that project was about twice the size of this box, at least. So that's like a month and a half of work. This was about 5 days of work. So I'm not trying to downplay this, but, you know, just to give you an idea, here, I took all these cards, put them end to end, like just went out on the freeway and started laying them down, and it stretched about 2 miles.
Wow. So how long, you said he's worked 5 days. How many hours did he put into this?
I guess I would normally get here around 11, and I would usually work until 11. And some days I worked a little bit more than that, just depending on how I was feeling and how much work it seemed like I needed to do. And, you know, with the movie showing, there's a lot of people around, a lot of gawkers, so it's kind of fun to work when people are watching.
So one of my questions is, what got you into doing this?
Well, initially it was my grandfather who he would always, you know, build a house of cards between card games, and later it was sort of like an evolving interest in architecture that I had. So I'm a trained architect, but this is my real job, if you want to call it that. And on a professional level, if you want to call it that, or a business level, I guess the beginnings of it really are kind of that. In the early 90s, a buddy of mine in college said to me, hey, you know, you need a website. And I was like, well, what's a website? And so he put up cardstacker.com, and that was the beginning of, you know, what is today my business. So I get inquiries from all over the world to do crazy things. So sometimes people want me to build, you know, with playing cards, you know, ace, king, queen style. Sometimes people want me to use other things. So like I said, this time we used the Konami cards for this project, and it's always a little bit of a gamble for me because working with something that I'm not entirely familiar with kind of creates some new challenges, because I don't really know how strong the cards are, and I don't know how easily they'll slip, and I don't really know exactly what I'm dealing with. It'd be like trying to go out and get in a race car that you had never driven. Think of it that way.
So how was the challenge using these cards?
I think the Konami cards are a little more slippery than the ones I usually use. Not a lot, a little bit. And, you know, these are kind of bridge size, and I usually use a bridge size card. And say what you want, but those little differences, you know, I can kind of feel it in my hand, and the way it sits and the way it moves, and, you know, all that stuff is noticeable. Kind of weirds you out when you're used to it working differently.
Really cool. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to tear this down today. Got any advice for me before I tear it down?
Okay, well, one thing to note is that there's almost 100 pounds of cards here. So it is fragile. It is a house of cards. It is freestanding. You know, you could knock it over, especially like if you bump the platform that it's sitting on. But because of all that weight, and because of the kind of honeycomb construction, it's a lot more strong than you think. So the cards on the outside are fragile. You know, those are easy to come off. They'll flake off pretty easy, and you'll see that. But otherwise, as far as knocking it down, it's probably going to take more than you think. And eventually you might just have to kind of go Godzilla on it, or, you know, I don't know.
Sounds good. Let's have some fun. Let's do this. Ready?
It is a hazardous profession.
Oh, that was fun.